Hi, welcome to Edward Box Guitar Tuition. So my classic album inspection today is Slave to the Thrill by Hurricane. Not to be confused with Slave to the Grind by Skid Row. So Hurricane actually made a bit of an impact with their first album, Over the Edge. It made number 92 on the Billboard charts, and they had a sort of minor hit, charted about number 33, I think. They're sort of known because I had Tony Cavazo and Robert Zazo, brothers of Carlos Cavazo and Rudy Zazo in the band, Jay Shallon, who's since gone on to Yes, and the excellent Kelly Hansen on vocals, who's now in Foreigner, or kind of that weird Foreigner thing that goes out without anyone from Foreigner, but occasionally Mick Jones. But anyway, he's a great singer. They did their second album, and they got Doug Aldridge in on guitar. So at this point, Doug Aldridge had been in Lion. He'd done an EP for Lion, the Dangerous Attraction album, and The Trouble in Angel City. So Doug Aldridge was known as quite a hotshot player in the LA scene, but wasn't known wider, apart from in certain guitar circles. So when this album came out, it actually had a flexi disc on one of the guitar magazines. My mate was raving about it. I didn't realise Doug had joined the band. I was a big Doug fan, and it was the track I was looking at, In the Fire. It's really cool. So obviously with Doug being in the band, I was going to check out the album. So I think this is kind of an example of an album. It's the date needs a citation, so it says March the 28th, 1990. That's when I'm putting out this video. It may change between when I've recorded it and when it goes out, because sometimes it's hard to nail these dates down. But it's kind of one of the last sort of albums of this type. Into 91, you got a few more of these in 92, and it became less and less. So Hurricane were obviously hoping to break out and build on this. It didn't go that way. I think one of the reasons is, just looking at it, it's on Enigma Records, I think. Enigma, they had Joe Satriani on them. I think Steve Vai released some stuff. That stuff went out on Food for Thought in the UK. But Enigma also had Poison, Look What a Cat Dragged In, I think was released on Enigma. So that probably gave them some money to splash out. But when you listen to this album, the production's good and the mix is good. It's actually mixed by Chris Lord-Alge, some of it. But it hasn't quite got that polish. And I suspect, it's had a sizable budget, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, maybe more. And then they've had budget for a couple of videos, but it's difficult to compete with the bigger bands of the time who are on bigger labels. But that aside, this is a really good hair metal album, glam metal album, whatever you want to call it. Opens with the track Rain of Love. There's a few co-writers on this album. This is co-written by a guy called Frank Symes. It's Rain of Love. It starts off with rain, but the title's Rain as in raining of terror or something. It's got a good rocking riff. The drum sounds, a kind of big boxy drum sound at the time. Doug's guitars got lots of clarity. It's very chorused. I quite kind of like it. I wish it had a bit less chorus, but quite like the smoothness of it. First thing you notice is that the band's really tight. Kelly Hansen's got a great voice. He can hit the top tenor note with ease, and he can go beyond. He's got one of those registers where he can get balls in the upper reaches. A lot of power, and not a lot of singers, have that. So the song's really catchy. Doug does a top face melter on it, and lays down, another marker as a top player. Then you've got Next to You. This was released as a single, as a video for this, you'll find on YouTube. This is a catchy track. This has got two co-writers. Well, it's an outside writer song. So clearly the record company's, look, you need a single. Weirdly, this just feels, it just feels like a Hurricane, like the rest of the album. It doesn't feel like the band's had a kind of ballad forced on them or something. Well, that'll just happen later. But it's a good track. It's got another good solo by Doug. Catchy chorus, I really like it. Then you got Young Man. Again, this has got the co-writer Frank Symes on it. This has got a pretty good staccato riff with delay at the start. Quite interesting lyrics. And Doug, of course, pulls off a face melter. On this album, Doug does a kind of cool thing where he bends up a string and lets down the other bend, like, very bluesy, but does it with loads of sort of LA balls. I love it. Then you got Dance Little Sister. This is your typical sort of slinky bluesy track. I just growing on with this track. Actually, it's catchy. It fits in. What's going on in the music at the time. Doug again does a really nice solo. Really builds really well. So like really four really good tracks off the bat. Then you got Don't Want to Dream. This is a cheesy co-written ballad. It's all right. You know, it's probably my least favorite track on the album. You know, this is a thing that's typical of the time. How do we get a hit out there? How do we get traction, attract people into metal and hard rock who wouldn't normally be into that? And this was like glam metal, hair metal, 80s metal, rock, whatever you want to call it. That was its curse, really. That's what kind of undid it in the end, because it attracted fair weather fans. It attracted fans who maybe would like a single or something like that, but when they get the album, they weren't quite as sold on it. But some bands managed to navigate it. But that's just my sort of feeling. So that was the end of side one. I seem to remember. Side two opened with Temptation. I had the vinyl for this. I'll come to that actually. And this is co-written by someone else called Jeff Jones. This is a really good track, typical melodic rocker. It shows off Hanson's range. It's in A minor. So, when he's hitting that top C, if you're a singer, that top C, he's going beyond that. He's really cranking out. One of Doug's best solos on this, just really melodic, beautiful phrasing. That's the thing with Doug Aldridge. Now we see him more as a kind of bluesy, fiery rock player. And back then he did all that, but he had this kind of lovely way of navigating minor key changes. Great track. And you got 10,000 Years. This again is another co-writer, and this is sort of the album's epic, quite interesting, really nice slow ploddy riff, cool chorus, really interesting solo. Doug really kind of holds back. I think he might be using a Strat or something on neck pickup. It's quite a semi-distorted sound, really good. According to this, it's got an instrumental FX. When I had the vinyl, this wasn't kind of earmarked as a track. It's obviously a CD thing. So this is kind of like an instrumental sound effects that go into the track in the far. So this was the track that I mentioned before. It was on the flexi disc, probably with Guitar World or Guitar Player. I think it was Guitar World. Actually, Doug did have a Jackson advert, a full-page advert in Guitar World around this time, because he's one of their main endorsees. This is a really good track as well. Catchy chorus, cool solo with Doug. He kind of does a top run and goes to some palm harmonics, drums, bass, everything in place, very good. Oh, that rhymed. Then you got Let It Slide. This is kind of the drop D, maybe it's drop D, sort of acoustic track. A little bit sort of Bon Jovi, Dead or Alive sort of vibe, I suppose. It's pretty decent. It's quite catchy again. I'm not massive on it. It's kind of mirroring really the Don't Want to Dream track, but it's okay. It's not a bad track. And then you got Lock Me Up. Really stupid lyrics on this. If I can't love you, they can lock me up and throw away the key. Really slinky riff on this. Another face metal from Doug. Really good chorus. It's very catchy. This album's very catchy. The final track is Smiles Like a Child. Now I've just noticed this isn't written by Hurricane. It's Waldman Park and Gold, which is just as well, because the lyrics are really dodgy. I'll not say what they are. It's not as bad as Sex Child by Blue Murder. But anyway, this is a pretty catchy track. It's a cool kind of 12/8 sort of boogie, Hot for Teacher style breakdown in the middle for the solo, and then a cool harmony. Not the best track on the album, but it's pretty decent. So overall, I think I'd give this album an 8 out of 10. It was produced by Michael James Jackson. I believe he did Dynasty by Kiss. That's Enigma Capital. As you just mentioned, Enigma had distribution through Capital. So they're like Megaforce, so one of those labels where there was access to the wider market, but they didn't have the budget that a major would have. Recorded at one-on-one studio, so that wouldn't be cheap. Anyway, I do think this is decent. Looking at it, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 songs co-written on it. So that's quite interesting. That again, using that thing that's happening at that time, like your Desmond Child, bringing in a song doctor. Obviously, I haven't heard as much of these people, so probably a bit cheaper than them. But anyway, if you're interested in, if you like 80s metal, hard rock, and you've heard Kelly Hansen sing with Foreigner, this is definitely worth checking out. I think there'll be people who probably prefer the first album. But for me, I've got to be honest, I had a bit of a listen to that, but I wasn't that fussed. The key thing with this is it gets Doug Aldridge, the guitar hero, and that's a great blend. You've got a good bass, but you've got a really good drummer. Jay Shellen's a proven player. Bass is solid. So with Kelly Hansen and Doug, this was a good unit, but you know, you're releasing an album like this in March 1990, you might catch a bit of the wave, but the next time you release an album, people won't be listening to this kind of music. This is what happened. So we should just finish with talking about the album cover. So when I bought the album cover, no, I didn't buy the album cover, but I bought the vinyl. It had a grey black and white cover with a machine on the front. And this was actually a second pressing. It must have gone out in America because a photographer had a woman naked on the machine. It wasn't like Virgin Killer by the Scorpions, but it's not great. Now that's the cover I got on the CD, and if you go online you'll find that cover. I mean, it's artfully done, it's got a kind of Giga quality to it, but you know, it's kind of pretty dodgy. Well, it is dodgy. So I just had the one with the machine, and obviously airbrushed it out, or maybe take some second photos. So that's a minor thing now. Just looking at all music score on this is like 4.5 stars out of 5. So yeah, this is definitely worth checking out. It's 35 years old this year. Remember to share and subscribe, and I'll see you again for another classic album inspection. Thanks very much.